please don't step on my porcelain spoons.
12 seconds later.
Okay. So the other day in a video, I happened to mention that I used to collect spoons when I was a kid, and I still have the collection, and I'm not quite sure how to display that collection. And about 5,000 people in the comments told me, spoon racks! They make spoon racks! My grandma had a spoon rack! I've seen a spoon rack at a thrift store! Look for a spoon rack! Thank you! I am indeed aware, and was prior to this occasion aware, of spoon racks. In fact, back in high school, my brother, who is now a professional carpenter, built me a custom spoon rack for my collection. That spoon rack no longer works, nor would any of the spoon racks that you have probably seen. They're just not gonna work anymore for one major reason. Hello. Size. One reason that is technically two different reasons. Size of my collection, and also the size of the spoons in my collection. The thing is, and I don't know how much of a thing this is outside of America, people seem to have at some point in history decided that certain things can be collectibles. There's a bunch of these things. I'm pretty sure my family in some form collected all of them. Y'all, we were so encouraged to collect things as kids, and then there were a bunch of kids, and most of us collected more than one thing. I kept my spoon collection, but I did not keep my other one, which was a shoe collection. Not wearable shoes that are actually useful in some way, but little figurine shoes. I had so many of them, I genuinely don't remember at what stage in my adult life I got rid of them, but I am 99% sure I passed those on to another world. But yeah, my point is, spoons are one of the things that was like decided upon as a collectible over with like thimbles. Thimbles are a really common one, or were at least. Keychains, stuff like that. So there's like sort of a standard size and shape of collectible spoon that you can get for each state, for different cities that you go to, for different attractions that you go to. And I do have a lot of those. That's what those spoon racks are meant to hold. They have like a standard size, a standard height for each of the rows and stuff. They're meant to hold those. I also have a lot of other types of spoons. Like, it's pretty varied. So the standard racks not only are not generally big enough for the number of spoons that I have, but they also would not accommodate the various sizes that I have. Anyway, all of this was to say, I thought since I brought it up the other day, how about we just go through my spoon collection, and then I'll tell you at the end what some of my ideas are for how to possibly display it so that it's not just sitting in a tub forever. What's the point of that? And that'll give all of you very creative people an opportunity to give me ideas, because I'm not at all sure. I have like 3 different possible ideas, some of which came from the last time I mentioned it in a video. You guys always have great ideas, so I would love to know your opinions. But wait until you see what I have, because you really have to take into consideration the size and variety here. Also, this is slightly, wow, I lost the word. Trickstery? What's the word for this is giving you the wrong impression? I don't know. It has left my brain. This whole thing is not full of my spoon collection. I'm pretty sure we threw other stuff in here. Oh my god, we did. We threw a bunch of Matt's stuff in here. We picked up all of these tubs from my in-laws' house in Florida. I had been storing them there for like 5 years while Matt and I moved a lot and lived in small places and stuff. But he also had several things that were still in that house that he wanted to bring back. You know, stuff like a professional boom mic. Matt works with sound, in case y'all didn't know. I should probably use that to my advantage, but this seems a little bit over the top for me to be using in my videos. I have a very simple setup, and this is a little like we're filming an actual movie on top of a windy mountain. Pretty sure he forgot all this stuff is in here though, so I'll show him this when he gets home. Oh, we have the baby version. We'll get to the spoons eventually. I see glimpses of them here under 5,000 cables. Hi, sweet boy, you wanna smell some stuff? Cause let me tell you, this stuff smells very distinctly like backstage. Anyone who has ever worked backstage anywhere knows the smell of backstage. What's in here? We're going on a little exploration before we get to the spoons, apparently. What the crap? Yo, I didn't even know I still kept this stuff. This is from back when I scrapbooked as a kid. We all scrapbooked as well. It was just like a family hobby that we all got into. This is all the stickers from scrapbooking. Oh my God, and all the paper. You know, just the other day, I think I needed some decorative paper for something, and I was like, shame you don't still have all your scrapbooking stuff. I had no idea I kept this. Why did I keep this? This might be going as a donation to Remainders. I don't know, I'll look through them later. Oh yeah, we were looking at what's in this. Judging by all of the tissue paper, I wanna say this is a shell collection. Yet another thing that we all collected. Oh, ironically, it is shells, but it is also part of my spoon collection. We'll look at that in a minute. So I think this is spoons. Okay, cool. So there is significantly less in here now. It's almost empty. To the point that I think I might have more of these in another tub. God forbid, I don't want to have to dig through those to try to find them. We'll see what I think once they're all laid out. Let's see the oh so exciting locations that I visited as a kid. Dallas, Texas. That's where I grew up. I guess why not have a spoon from where you lived? We have one for the whole state of New Mexico, which is a little bit weird to me because I don't remember us ever going to New Mexico. Like, I've driven through there and spent the night on road trips multiple times as an adult. But when did I ever go there as a kid? I wonder if this was the era when I was just like super excited for stuff, for collecting stuff, and we literally like crossed through it, because we did go to Colorado a couple years from Texas. That seems a little out of the way, but maybe we crossed through New Mexico and I literally got this in a gas station. This is what I'm saying. Like, it was just kind of trained into us to love collecting things, and I still love collecting stuff in general. But I think my focus has shifted now. Instead of just buying a ton of the exact same thing because that seems like what to do, I would rather collect like artwork in general, you know? And then every piece that I buy is actually something I really, really liked. Speaking of Colorado, we have a Pikes Peak. Oh, we have Oklahoma, which again, I lived there eventually, but not until I was in college. So that might have been a crossing through thing. We've got Branson, Missouri. I do remember going there. This is a fun one, Dallas Museum of Natural History, and it's got a little dinosaur on the top. So that's at least like more creative. Actually, what you notice here already is that even among the collectible spoons, there's a lot of size difference. So I remember when my brother made me the custom frame hanger thing, I remember him having trouble with it because like the width of the shaft, someone who knows a lot about utensils is gonna be like, there's a name for that. I could probably look it up, but I'm not gonna right now. I'm sure there's a name for the handle of a utensil. Anyway, all the widths were slightly different, and then the stuff on top was all different, so some of them were more top heavy than others and wanted to fall out. Like, he had quite a lot of tweaking to do to make that work, and that was just with like the easier ones. This one is so small. Oh, but speaking of dinosaurs again, Dinosaur Valley State Park. That's in Texas. I remember going there. They have like big statues of dinosaurs. Another Texas one, Jefferson, Texas. I don't remember why we went here, but I think it was for like a small trip at Christmas. I think they had like a miniature train, not a really little miniature, not even like a kid-sized miniature, but not like a full-sized train, a somehow in between all of those sizes train that you could like ride on for Christmas or something. So we went for like a weekend trip. Chicago, that would have been the first time I went to Chicago, which was while I was in college because my brother was in the Navy and he went to boot camp? Is it still called boot camp? Whatever it is, he like had his graduation in Chicago, so we drove up there for that. New York, Statue of Liberty. Y'all, the first time I went to New York was with Matt in, I believe, 2018, by which point I had definitely stopped collecting spoons. So I guess I got this one because I was just like, it's my first time in New York. I have to get one. We were both exhausted on that trip because we had just gotten off of a cruise ship contract and then spent some time in Brazil with his family. And then we had like 4 or 5 days in New York and I was like, my first time in New York, but I was so tired. Like both of us were just mentally drained, which tends to happen at the end of a 6+ month cruise contract. Your brain just kind of shuts off. We very much needed rest. What is this? Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Okay, I'm pretty sure this is from like the US Mint in Colorado. I think when we were in Colorado, we went to like tour the Mint. I love that I have like this and Pikes Peak from Colorado, but I don't actually have like a Colorado spoon. This one, I have no idea because this is not for any place. It's just like a decorative beaded spoon. So do I remember where I got this? No, I don't at all. And here we get into slightly weird stuff. I have spoons from other countries. First of all, I have a spoon from Brazil. The irony is that this is not from me going to Brazil. One of my older sisters went to Brazil years before I ever met Matt, and she brought this back for me. Which, like, not to disparage that whatsoever, very nice of her, but I will say that's something I personally never really liked with collections. It was like if you told someone you collected things, they would often bring you that thing when they went places. But to me, I was always like, well, the point of this collection being like from all the places I've been is that it's from all the places I've been. Here I have a spoon from Panama. I've never been to Panama except for like a flight layover once. Why do I have this? I can't even remember who I know who went to Panama. Like, did one of my siblings go there and bring me this? So that's the thing for me. I'm like, I'm having trouble remembering exactly why I got some of the spoons that are even for places that I went. I don't necessarily see the point of getting one for a place that I haven't been. You know? I'd be interested to know your thoughts on that. If you collect a thing that is sort of location-based, because there's other things you collect that are not at all location-based. You know, if my sister brings me a beautiful bowl from somewhere she visited, then I'm just like, wow, that's a beautiful bowl, thank you for thinking of me, gorgeous. But like, the specific things that are like Panama, Brazil, do you want people to bring you that stuff from places you've never been? Or would you prefer to only have a collection of places that you've been? Because I'm on the latter side. And finally, this one threw me for a second because it is from Pisa. But again, that was actually me. This was past the point of when I was collecting spoons that I studied abroad in Italy, and we did go to Pisa among a bunch of other places. I'm guessing that Pisa is the only place that I ran into the traditional touristy shops and stands and everything. I remember outside the Leaning Tower, there were like all of the people with like the stands of t-shirts, like all the stuff you see at any touristy place. Collectibles. But every other place we went in Italy was much less touristy. Like, I think this was the only place where I saw little collectible stuff, and similar to New York, even though I wasn't really collecting spoons anymore, I think I probably was like, but it's Italy, I should get one. Now we get into the, that's the name of the category. Great first example, a spoon fork of like solid metal. This is pretty cool. These were the more fun ones for me to collect, but then I don't really remember where it came from, so it's not necessarily tied to a memory. I want to say I got this at the Ren Fair, which would have been the Texas Ren Fair, because that's the one we used to go to all the time. That's like the slight memory that's coming into my head. Morning Mercury did like a night costume that was all a picnic, which was just fabulous. This would have been great on that kind of a costume. So then we have the shell spoon. I'm guessing I probably got this in Galveston. That's where we would go for like family vacation. Usually, these are the ones I actually really love because they're so unique. And that is like a piece of artwork that somebody made. Ooh, okay. This one also came from Brazil, also from my sister when she was there. But this is way cooler to me than like the yay, you went to Brazil spoon. This is, again, a piece of artwork. And it fit within the collection. It's so fun. It's also, I believe, the biggest spoon that I have. So do you see why the regular spoon racks would not work? How are you putting this on it? We've got 2 wooden spoons here. I wish I knew where they came from. This one, again, might be from a Ren Fair. Might. This one, I think actually my brother, the same now a carpenter brother, I think he carved this for me. I'm pretty sure. Which, the funny thing there is that I now have like wooden spoons in the kitchen that he made. More professional, I guess you would say, usable, actual wooden spoons. So it's kind of funny that like, you know, here's like an early example of his figuring stuff out wood carving, and now he does it for real. This one I am 99.9% sure came from Mexico, probably my first time there, which would have been back in high school. We did like mission trips to the Rio Grande Valley, and we would usually go one day into Mexico and go to the beach and walk around and go to the touristy stuff and everything. So pretty sure that's where that one's from. This one is gorgeous. I know I didn't buy it. I know this is one that somebody gave to me, and therefore I can't remember where it's from. Like, I'm pretty sure this is from another country, but I don't know. There's kind of something written on the handle, but I can't make out what it is because it's so smudged. It looks like C-O-U or C-A-U, C-L-E maybe? That doesn't spell anything, does it? And see, here we have one that I'm a little unsure of again. I think this might have also been from Brazil. I think my sister just found a lot of spoons while she was there. This one's your good old spoon and spoon and fork salad tosser with toucans on the top. Super cute. I do really like these. But you see the size variations we're dealing with here. Oh, goodness. Okay. There's a lot of spoons in this little box. That's where the rest of the collection is. Now I'm remembering, over time I lost a bunch of these cases that they came in. What is this? Ooh. Oh, see, these are more of the artwork ones. Y'all, again, see, I wasn't keeping track back then of art that I was acquiring, or maybe I wasn't thinking of these as art in the same way I now think of them as art, because some of them are art. I was young, you know? Most of these I was like under the age of 18 or maybe 20 at most. So this one, I remember it, as in I look at it and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. I don't remember where I got it, but it's so pretty. Somebody did that painting and they did a beautiful job, and it's beautiful artwork. And this is mainly why I do want to find a way to display my spoons. It's less about the city, state, location, collectible ones, and it's more about the artistic ones that I got over the years. I know there's a lot of these in here, and why keep art in a box, you know? Both of these, I'm pretty sure, were just vintage spoons. So who knows where they came from, you know, in the past. For me, they probably came from some, you know, little gift store. We would go into a bunch of them when we were on vacations. There was usually some sort of like old-timey cute town near where we would go, and like a whole day would be spent just walking through the stores. I love this rose one though. Ooh, this is another one that like I remember, but where did I get it? So this is kind of like just an average table spoon, not a tablespoon, but a tablespoon with someone's stunning painting on it. And this complicates things. Everything else is like flat and could be hung And this one is meant to sit on something. See how complicated it gets here? What do I do with this? It might have to be like a separate display. I kind of want to put this up somewhere right now. It's such a beautiful little painting in a spoon. How freaking creative and artistic are people? Okay, now we got a bunch of location ones again. NASA, we went to the Houston NASA Center at some point in my life because it's really close to Galveston. Oh, and look at that. Here's a more general Colorado one. Denver, Colorado. Woohoo! Miramont Castle in Manitou Springs, Colorado. We did tour a lot of old houses everywhere that we went. That was a very common thing to do because usually the admission was fairly low, especially back then, and we were a 9-person family. So like, genuinely, I don't even know how we afforded to go on family vacations at all. You try to take 9 people somewhere is expensive. This is why we never flew anywhere. It had to be like road trip distance. There you go, General Colorado spoon. I knew I had to have one. By the time we started going to Colorado, because that was such a far drive for us, we went there because we had a family friend who let us stay in a house there for free. But by that time, I was like in high school, which meant I probably had a little more cash to my name, a little bit of a higher allowance that I had been able to save up. So I definitely would have been able to buy myself more souvenirs. That was a very kind of specific structure in our family, was that like when you were really young, you generally got like one thing on a family vacation. You could choose like the one thing that you wanted the parents to buy for you. And then like as you got older, it just, I don't know what the exact age was, but it became a thing where like you no longer get something purchased for you. If you want a souvenir of any kind, you save up your money all year and you buy it yourself. Toronto. Have I been to Toronto? No, I have not. This is again from my sister, the same one that went to Brazil. She went to Toronto once and brought me a spoon. Galveston. Yeah, like I said, we go to Galveston. I remember this spoon especially giving my brother so much trouble because you've got a freaking palm tree in the place where most of the other ones are like fitting into a slot. How do you hang this one up? I don't know how people got those custom spoon racks to work for them, except for these kind of things, which I do not have very many of these, but this was like a very standard spoon size. Usually everywhere you went, you could find these tiny spoons, and then they'd maybe have like a more creative version. And I would always get the more creative version if that was offered. But these, I think, are the ones that those spoon racks are really meant for. They were very standardized, they're small, they're light. This one is generically for Arkansas, which is where my grandparents lived. So we went there every year to see my grandparents for a long time. The Alamo. Some good old pistols on top, because why not, I guess? Oh, I like the giraffe head on this one. Fossil Rim Wildlife Center. Pretty sure that's also in Texas. Missouri, another just generic state one. I remember getting these because I was like, well, I have a state one for Colorado. I should get a state one for all the other states that I visited. It's hard to find the generic state ones except at like a gas station. What's next? There's just like layers upon layers in here, y'all. Bishop's Palace. That was another of those fancy old homes. This one in Galveston. We have Garden of the Gods, which is in Colorado. It's like this really cool rocky area with these really red rocks. The Palace of Wax in Dallas, Fort Worth. Interesting that it says that on the thing. I wonder if they weren't yet bought by Ripley's, believe it or not, but I believe this is what is now known as Ripley's, believe it or not. A general Houston, Texas one. Wahoo. Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. Yes, I said my brother was in the Navy. We just toured the Air Force Academy. It has this like really architecturally interesting building there, so I think like a lot of people come to tour it because it's just like pretty or something. It's the building that's on this spoon. I do remember briefly considering joining the Air Force after going there because I wanted to jump out of planes. And then later in life, I realized that I could just pay to jump out of a plane anyway, and I did that instead. Royal Gorge, Colorado. Woohoo! That's like kind of a theme park, but it's built on and around this really, really deep gorge, and you've got one of those like massive swing things that goes out over it. I did it with 2 of my siblings and it was freaking awesome. Oh, and then I have another Chicago one. How many Chicago spoons did I need? Did I buy 2 in the same trip? Oh, this one's fun. Look at the dolphin from San Diego. Again, I've been to San Diego, but I know I didn't buy this when I went to San Diego. I think this was, again, my sister. So I've got quite a collection of spoons from where my sister has been. Again, I'm not knocking it. It was very nice of her to think of me. The Moody Mansion and Museum. I'm gonna assume that's another one of those houses we toured. This one doesn't say which city it's in though, so I don't know. We toured a lot of old houses, y'all. They all kind of blend together in your head. Not for food use. Thank you for noting it on this one. Oh, Walt Disney World. Okay, so I definitely bought that spoon. That would have been like freshman year of college when I went to my first Disney college program. So I think that's the thing. I think once I left for college, I was like, I'm not actively collecting spoons anymore. But then anytime I went somewhere, anytime I went somewhere that was like specifically new or interesting, which apparently for me was Disney World, New York, and Pisa, I would still get one. Texas. I have a General Texas one. Grand. Snake Farm. Snake Farm? New Braunfels. Did we go to a snake farm? I mean, I remember New Braunfels. That was near San Antonio. I think there was one time that we went down there. I don't necessarily remember a snake farm though. Cave of the Winds, Colorado. Yeah, we did a lot of stuff in Colorado. We were all older by then. Like the youngest kid was probably like 8 by the time we started going there. And then I have 2 like kind of matching but slightly different. 2 more, just generically for Texas, in case I forgot where I came from. I'll have 3 spoons just for Texas. Oh, I almost thought I had 4 spoons generically for Texas, but this one is for San Antonio, specifically. Like the little dangly flags in some of them. Fancy. Historic Green, Texas. Again, one of those that was really hard to figure out how to hang it up because it's got a thick thing. Oh, this one too, for the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. Cheyenne Mountain, where's that? But I like their handle. It's super creative, both of them, but like, how you hang those up in one of those traditional spoon racks? You don't. Solid fine pewter. Oh, grand, we've come to the end of the little box. We've got War Eagle Mill in Arkansas. This was one of the places that we went like every year growing up because it was near where my grandparents lived. It was this old grain mill on a river. So it had like the water wheel to run the grain mill, and it had been turned into like a restaurant on the top, and then there was like a gift store, but you could still see like how it had once operated, and then they had the woods around, or like the land you could have picnics on, and the river. We would always go swimming in the river and like down the river for a while. I always found like shells, and we would see otters, I think, sometimes. So that definitely has a lot of memories tied to it. Manitou Springs, Colorado. Just one for the general town. We stayed in Colorado Springs, but I think this was like a short drive away, and it was the cute little small town where we'd go to do the cute little small town gift store shopping. Oh, and then I have a teeny tiny spoon. Why? I don't know, but it's really freaking cute. I love a tiny spoon. I do not know where this one came from. I feel like I just saw it possibly even in like a regular kitchen style store and was like, that's the smallest spoon I've ever seen. I must have it. It feels like it's supposed to go in like a salt pig. So this is all the sort of base collection. As you can see, they're extremely varied in size, varied in shape. You've got all sorts of different handles, different lengths. Like, it's already pretty crazy. There's already 58 spoons here. And then we have these. This is a whole little secondary branch of my spoon collection. I do not know a whole lot about this. I can learn a little bit by looking at the box. They're from a Kathy Ireland home collection by Franz. I think the by Franz part was the one that I was more interested in. So this, I believe, was something I found in one of those gift stores in Arkansas. Although it might have been one of the gift stores in Colorado, because I was old enough to have the money to buy these, and even just the single spoons were pretty expensive. So yeah, it might have been Colorado. They are entire sets, entire like kitchen tea set things. Who is Franz? Let me read from one of these cards that's very handily here. The Franz collection was first recognized for its unique artistic designs and unsurpassed quality during the 2002 New York International Gift Fair. Okay, so they're like a fine porcelain brand, I guess, that makes like really interesting collections. Okay, here, this one has a price tag on it. So 1, it says Colorado. That answered that question. 2, it says $16.50. So I paid $16.50 for each of these spoons, which yeah, I would not have been able to afford when I was like 10, 16, maybe. Although, now at the age of 32, I'm like, why? Why did you do this? Don't get me wrong, these are all gorgeous, and another reason why I'd like to display things. I remember it was this specific store in like the Colorado Springs downtown or something, or it might have been the Manitou Springs downtown, that had a bunch of this porcelain, a bunch of the collections. And I remember just thinking every single one of them was stunning, which makes sense to me even now because they are freaking unique. They are just like, as the world of dishware goes, pretty uncommon and gorgeous. And then I realized that as part of the collection, each one had a spoon. And I was like, there we go, I collect spoons, and that's the smallest, most affordable part of the collection, so I can have a little piece of this gorgeous artistic beauty for my own collections, even though I will never be able to afford a full collection of the dishes. I don't know, maybe I would someday, but I don't know I would bother spending the money on it. I ended up getting several of them. Obvious. Ooh, the peacock one. Already gorgeous. I'm reminded as soon as I open these why I wanted them and why I liked them. It's kind of cool. I was getting into my, my like, I want art era of life, which then went on pause for a really long time because I was traveling and living out of my car a lot. Not actually living out of my car, but like everything I owned had to fit in my car. But now I've been so happy to be able to buy art again and support artists and everything. Sea turtle. Love that one. This is what I always am looking for though. Like I'll go into Williams-Sonoma or something and look at the dishes that they have there. And I'm always like, yeah, okay. Like whatever the collection is, it's usually like, yeah, that's fine. I want to see something crazy and different and unique and inspired by animals or plants or food. And that's what these were. Ooh, this one's gorgeous. I don't know, I feel like I'm sitting here like justifying to myself why I bought these as a child. But also as I open each one, I'm awed by its beauty, so why am I having to justify it to myself? Good on ya, high school me, for buying beautiful things. This one's an elephant. See? How freaking unique is that? Ooh, that one's so pretty. And it's got the great curve to it. Oh, I love that. Also, have I mentioned that like I have not looked at these or opened these in at least 5 years, possibly way longer than that, because even the last time I like moved the tubs around and condensed them a little bit more, I don't know that I actually went through everything. I feel like I haven't seen these in like a decade. Oh, tiger cub. There's so many good animals. They're so cute. And the spoon is a paw. Oh my God, there's still so many more. How did I afford this as a high schooler? Maybe this was after I got my first part-time job. Oh, dolphin. I will say, I also remember just loving so many of these and not being able to choose which one was my favorite. So I think that did play a part in how many of them I ended up buying. And we went to Colorado 3 times, so I think I bought these over the 3 different years. It might have even been like by the 3rd year, I might have been saving up specifically. Giraffe! Yo, I have like a whole zoo collection here. I'm finding it fascinating that they're all like packaged differently too, which maybe also says something about the passage of time. I feel like the flower ones were the ones I maybe bought last, because knowing me, I would have gone for the animals first. I am always most enthralled by things that look like animals. Ooh. Oh, I think I like this one more now than I probably did when I bought it, because I love the blue and white together. Ugh, that's so pretty. Ooh. That one's gorgeous. You think it's gonna be a flower at first, and then it's a fish. It's so showy. Oh, a bird. Felt like we needed a bird in here. We have the peacock, but it's not actually a peacock. It's a peacock feather. Oh, this one was $17. Price went up. Ooh, that one's stunning. So many different colors, and they all work together so well. And that curved shape again. They all have some curve, but I love the ones that are really curved. All right, so what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. So I've got 13 of those. Bringing the grand total to math, 71, ranging from over a foot long to teeny, some without handles at all, some with weird thick handles, some meant to stand up, and by some I just mean you. You're the only one. And then these gorgeous, very breakable porcelain ones to boot. These almost feel like they need a separate thing. So like, that's another consideration. So prior to reopening these, here were my display ideas. The thing I thought of years ago that I was like, that'd be super fun, is a glass-topped coffee table. You've probably seen those ones that like, it's not just the glass top, it's meant to put things inside of for display, and the glass top is so that you can see it. I could easily lay out all of these spoons inside a table like that. They'd be nice and protected, and since they're laying down, there's zero thought into like connecting them to something or supporting them or anything like that. It's like an easy solution. The only downside there is that I'm not really a glass-topped coffee table type of person, and it's not really something that I would want in my house, quite frankly, because that feels fragile and breakable and at knee height. As opposed to something breakable being like on a shelf or on the wall. It's like I'm not really going around like helicoptering my arms and slapping the wall, but running into things, that happens. So while I think that's sort of an easy and a fun way to display all of these, I don't necessarily think it's the best. I think hanging them on a wall in some way is a better idea. Also, I have way more available wall space. So concept one for hanging is something someone suggested, which is basically like making a tapestry, a piece of fabric, and like embroidering all of these onto the fabric. That's great for adjustability to the different sizes and shapes of everything. I could very easily use embroidery floss, cord, thread of some kind to get all of these to stay on something. My thought there is that you're gonna have to either frame that piece of fabric to pull it tight on all sides, or at the very least do like a board or some weights on the bottom, because you put all of these together and it is a chunk of weight, and it's gonna like make the fabric do weird things. So some sort of tension would have to be introduced. But granted, framing the whole thing wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea. Idea number 2 in the hanging world is to use like a piece of wood, you know, paint it, stain it, make it look nice, whatever, and attach all the spoons to that. That's much more stable. It's not necessarily so much weight that it's gonna be like, oh my God, don't hang that up on the wall or it's gonna rip the drywall off. Although using a piece of wood as the backing adds a lot of weight. But I think like appropriately hung, it would be fine. The question there is how exactly to hang everything. It would feel a little more permanent, because I think I would have to use like small nails and do like 2 nails that the spoon can fit in between. In that same vein though, so I guess idea number 3 would be to do that same thing but with a piece of foam. This I would just be concerned about how structurally sound it would be, but if I took a decently thick piece of insulation foam, like I don't think I would use the thin stuff, I think I'd use the bigger stuff to be safe, I could theoretically cover it in fabric so that it looks really nice, could even stick a frame around it so it looks even nicer, and then because it's foam, I could get some like really cute pins or thumbtacks to stab into there to do basically that same thing, to create like a thing for it to hang on or even connect them on the front If it's thumbtacks or pins, you could even like bend them together a little bit to make sure the stuff stays on. And that would be far more adjustable. Like as I'm arranging stuff on, I could easily just move all of those pins without like yanking a nail out of wood kind of thing. So all three of the hanging ideas, I think, would work. It's just a question of which one would work best and be the most logical and look the nicest. And now that I've unpacked all of these and looked at these again, particularly the bronze ones, it is begging the question for me if I should do some sort of display for the 58 base ones, or maybe 57, because, you know, this guy, and then come up with some other place or way to display the porcelain ones, because they are kind of very different than the rest. And then also like hanging them on the wall when they're porcelain is a little more like, you better be sure that's not gonna fall. I'm not planning on getting any more spoons at all for this collection. So I think that's the handiest thing. When my brother made me the frame or the rack or whatever, I was not done buying them. I had not stopped collecting stuff. So not only was it hard to tweak and didn't quite work with a lot of the ones that I already had, but also I kept getting more. And when you have something that's custom built, you can't really add on to it. So that is a benefit here, is I'm done with this. I don't plan on adding anything else to this collection. I have no interest in doing so. So whatever I do choose as a display method, I can just do it, arrange everything, and be done, you know? That was that. Thanks for coming along on my show and tell. Hope you had fun. Let me know what your ideas are, because I genuinely would be interested. Which of those three hanging options do you think would work the best? Or do you have some completely different idea? Do you think I should separate the two, the porcelain versus the actual collectible stuff? Is there something really clever you can think of for how to display the porcelain ones? Give me all your thoughts. I'll take them. Hello. Oh, thanks. Delicious. And this is I just heard a sound that was not good. Let me zoom in a little bit more, actually, as I balance things in my hand as I drop them everywhere. I like how the front of this just weirdly has Neuschwanstein on it. What does that have to do with anything? Ugh. Ooh, that's very zoomed in. So concept one, oh God. I should not lean against this shelf, and I will stop doing it right now. Ow.